hey Luke, Donald Trump's not even in charge yet and he's already saying, you're fired to the state of California. They're having wildfires. And the consequence of that is that, according to The Hollywood Reporter, nominations voting extended by 2 days. Nom's announcement and other events postponed in light of devastating LA fires.
This is the Oscars, by the way, which you failed to mention.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Yeah, sorry, yeah. For the Oscars, the nominations are, this is why it's happening. Good job.
Yeah, 1,000 houses have burned down, but
yeah,
the real victims are us, all the movie-watching public, because we have to wait 2 more days for the Oscar nominations to be announced. Yeah,
that is pretty tough. I'll be waiting on bated breath. How do you even have a fire in the middle of winter? Shouldn't it be cold?
And it's just California. It's a weird place.
Yeah. That's why they call it Hollyweird. Because all the wood burnt down. Hello and welcome to Select and Reflect, the movie review podcast where we look at films from the near and distant past, we give them a couple of watches and evaluate them beyond first impressions. And this week, and indeed perhaps I should say this year, we are starting off the years, as we often do, by entering Oscar season. Although we're kind of already in it because we looked at Best Picture winner, Godfather Part 2. But yeah, we're very much in the current Oscar season. Well, this last year. And we're looking at all of the nominees for Best Picture from last year. We're not doing them all right now, but we're doing a lot of them because we're doing 4. And I hope I'm right about this, these are the ones that were nominated for Best Original Screenplay. Yeah,
no, all of these were, of course, their own works. Of course, the 4 movies we are reviewing today are as follows, Michael.
Yeah, so we're looking at, in order of when we'll be looking at them, Anatomy of a Fall, The Holdovers, Maestro, and Past Lives.
Yeah. I don't know why you said Maestro like that, considering Leonard Bernstein isn't Italian.
I think it's just because Maestro is Italian for teacher.
Okay, good stuff. So yeah, shall we get going then with Anatomy of a Fall? Which
yes.
We're starting with this because it won Best Original Screenplay at last year's Oscars, so yes.
And presumably also based on having a great screenplay, it must have also won for Best Foreign Language Film, obviously.
Yes, obviously. So Michael, shall we get going with Anatomy of a Fall?
Yeah, just you try and stop me.
Okay, so Anatomy of a Fall is a 2023 French legal drama directed by Justine Triet from a screenplay she co-writes with Arthur Harran. Of course, it was an Oscar-winning screenplay. You made a joke before, didn't you, about Best Foreign Language Film. Do you want to explain why Anatomy of a Fall did not win that award?
Yeah, so my understanding is that the director, I believe, criticised the French government, the policies of one Emmanuel Macron.
Yeah, Macron specifically, yeah.
And therefore, because France is still basically a totalitarian dictatorship, the government didn't allow this film to be submitted for, their submission, their nomination they make to be considered for a Best International Film. And I don't even know what did they actually have a French film submitted instead? That went through, or
yes, but I'm not sure what that film was.
Yeah, I don't know either. Anyway, so basically, it's all politics. That's what it is, and it was all very cringe, and everyone made fun of Mr. Macron for being very sensitive.
Yes. So let's get into Anatomy of a Fall. It was directed by Justine Triet. It was written, of course, by Justine Triet. It stars Sandra Hüller, who we will also see next week, of course. Big up Sandra Hüller. Do you know why we're going to see her next week?
Oh, God. So, was she in a bloody Zone of Interest?
Yes.
Okay, that makes sense because it's the German one.
Yes. Swan Arlaud, Milo Macaro Grainer. Of course, I don't know who any of these French people are.
Yeah.
Antonio Reinhardt, Samuel Thies, Jenny Beth, what a name, Sadia Bentaleb. Oh, I know that name. Oh, because of the footballer Bentaleb. That's great. Camille Rutherford, Anne Rodke, and Sophia Filaris. Don't know. The release date was the 23rd of August, 2023 in France. And Michael, can you guess what the budget was for Anatomy of a Fall?
Absolutely. It was 18 million.
No. What? $18 million?
18 million euro cents. No, I don't know. I mean, I didn't know. I just thought I'd say a number confidently. But I don't know. I was gonna say $18 million. I really have no frame of reference. Probably, if I had to guess, I'd guess probably less than that. But who knows?
So it's $6.7 million.
Okay.
And which is 6.2 million euros, at least in the summer of 2023. So can you tell me what the box office is
Yes.
or was for Anatomy of a Fall.
Yes, it made $25 million.
And what's that in euros?
24 million euros.
No, it doesn't list it in euros for some reason. It's so it's $36 million.
Okay.
So this movie did quite well.
Yes.
Quite a hit in France, I'd imagine. And
yeah, you could say it was. You could say that the husband had quite a hit on the on the roof of that thing that he landed on.
Yeah, that's really funny.
Thank you.
So shall we get into Anatomy of a Fall, Michael? Did you like this movie?
Yeah. I like this movie. I thought it was just it was solid, I guess would be the way one would describe it, because there's like an intrigue, there's a thing. I feel like an investigation, a courtroom drama. It's a pretty easy way to have a film that is entertaining, because it's like you kind of got the twist built in. Like, oh, here's some new evidence, and here's something else I got to say. So solid. I wouldn't say like a masterpiece. I don't know. Probably, I feel like I would probably end up saying, all things considered, it's not my favorite screenplay. Because it's in a fake made-up language now. A lot of it's in English, to be fair. But yeah, solid. Definitely liked it. What do you think?
Why are you such a Philistine?
Oh, because I hate it.
No, because you can't just say it's a good courtroom legal drama. Okay.
Well, I mean, it's not that. It's not like that great.
Well, yes, it is.
How much do you like it?
Why do you think it won Best Original Screenplay?
I don't know, because the Academy's a bunch of dweebs.
So this is the thing. Like, it's incredibly smart, which we're going to get into, and I thought you'd agree with it, and you're just like, no, it's fine. Everything is done so well, and of course it picks apart the life of this couple, and you find out so much more about them as we go through the trial, and yeah, it's just really interesting. And I thought when I first watched it was like, wow, this is. I watched it before, it won Best Screenplay. I thought it had a good chance because of how, intelligent it was. Clearly a lot of thought was put into it, and it did end up winning. And I'm really surprised you just think it's mid, honestly.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's not, like, I will say this, it's mid within the context. Like, I'm not, just spoiler alert, I'm not going to rate this movie a 5, just so you know. So technically it's, I mean, I actually already have my rating locked in. And I was pleasantly surprised, because I watched this movie around Oscar time last time, and I actually had the exact same rating locked in from the first time I watched it, even though that was a year ago.
Is it like a 7?
Oh, you're going to have to wait to find out, Luke. You have to wait to find out.
You're so pathetic. I mean, it's just
you're just going to have to wait to find out,
one
Luke.
of a genuinely great screenplay. Anyway, let's get into this. How many nitpicks or litpicks do you have?
I have 0 nitpicks.
I have 1.
This is my favorite movie.
I have 1 litpick, and it's not. It's a fun litpick, but I'm not even in the mood to say it now, honestly, because of you. You've ruined it. But I was just going to say that Sandra Hüller's lawyer, the French guy,
Yeah.
the real French.
It looks like a mouse.
Does he look like a mouse to you?
Well, kind of like a bat mouse fox guy.
Well, he looks like Thomas Frank, the Brentford manager. But like a yassified version of him.
Thomas Frank, Brentford.
Yeah, but like a yassified version of him.
Yeah, I can kind of see that.
Yeah, and I use like the term yassified. I assume you know what that means.
Well, doesn't it just mean like made slightly more sexy in a vaguely, like, I feel like it means sexy, but almost in a kind of like a more feminine way. Like, not like it's mostly about being sexy.
Yeah,
but it's kind of
like
implies more feminine.
He's got filters on,
Yeah, exactly.
like,
that's a good way of putting it.
Like Snapchat or TikTok filter or whatever filter you want. Thomas Frank has been yassified, and that is what the lawyer looks like.
Lawyer. Oh, what's this movie called again? Anatomy of a Fall.
Yeah, Thomas Frank. Yeah. People have made that comparison. I'm not the first one. But
okay, that's good. As long as everyone else agrees. Yeah, I mean, like, having them directly next to each other, I can see it even more.
Yeah. Okay, so let's get into the plot, Michael. Will you read it out?
Positively. A woman is suspected of her husband's murder, and their blind son faces a moral dilemma as the sole witness. He's not really a witness, is he?
Yeah, I know. So that that's what I thought.
Is that from what's that from? What's that summary from?
I think that may be from from one of the illegal websites.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so you can never trust them.
Yeah. So basically, Sandra Hüller tries to prove her innocence after her husband dies, and the blind son doesn't really face a moral dilemma.
No, yeah, like that. I was like reading. I was like, that's not really accurate.
But maybe the movie portrays it as that. But we'll get onto that later at the end of the movie when he basically saves his mother. But yeah, we see, what I really like about this movie is we see this trial almost like a judge or a jury. We're finding stuff out about the case like them. With some more backstory, of course. But crucially, of course, we don't know if Sandra is innocent, and we don't know, and even at the end of the movie. And yeah, we're like a quasi audience to this trial.
There's nothing to really see in the beginning that gives anything away.
But that's not why it's so good. It's good because, again, what I said before, it's just so smart. Everything is ambiguous, but believably ambiguous. You genuinely don't know whether she did it or not because there's evidence to support it, evidence against it, and that can be done in kind of a hacky way, just to, because you're watching this movie and you're sitting on the fence, you're like, well, I don't know if she did or she didn't. And of course, as a screenwriter, you have the power to make the audience think that way, but you can do it, again, in a kind of a stupid way. But, this movie doesn't do that at all. And everything is unpicked with a lot of detail and a lot of thought, and there are just so many layers going on. And I think that is a great job. But you clearly don't think so.
Well, look, here's the thing. Do you want to know the very first thing I wrote down in my notes?
What?
Her husband definitely killed himself. She didn't do it.
Okay, why do you think that?
Because it's just so, I will say this, like, the point where it became obvious to me was when you hear that, like, argument they have, and it's like, the husband is so irrational, he's blaming her for every single one of his problems, he's got a completely defeatist mentality, and I was just like, well, obviously this is like, you just listen to the argument, she's like a completely rational person, her husband's like, oh, well, we speak your language, and it's like, no, I don't, I speak German. Like, every single point the husband's bringing up against her is just, like, complete nonsense, like, just stupid, and has no actual grounding, which speaks to the fact he's just, like, angry for the sake of being angry. And meanwhile, there's nothing about the wife which makes it, like, she's, like, annoyed because he's playing loud music. There's nothing about it that makes me think she'd kill him for a second, whereas there's a whole load of things that make me think, yeah, this guy sounds like a crazy, angry, depressed dude who's 100% just going to kill himself.
You would be right in saying that, but it's not really about that. It's about the evidence.
I agree, the way they present it is interesting.
So that's the thing. I guess when I say I don't know if she's innocent or not, maybe I'm not being the most accurate there. What I'm saying is you don't know whether she's going to be found innocent or not. Because, of course, when the trial is going on, I mean, the sexy Thomas Frank lawyer says, at the start of the movie, it doesn't matter whether you did it or not. So I guess...
I do really like... Yeah, actually, so that's something that I do really like. That, what's the word? Perception versus reality.
Yeah.
The fact she has to, like, basically... And I don't know, I don't want to jump ahead, but there's, like, loads of examples, like, when she's, like, giving her testimony and they're, like, giving her notes about, like, the specific things she needs to say in order to make the right impression.
Yeah.
And she's like, I did not realize it was... I mean, that sounds French. I did not realize it was going to be like this.
Well, she's German, so...
Yeah, I know, but I can't do a German accent as well as my French accent.
Nein, I did not know it was going to be like this.
I need to watch the Nuremberg trials
so
I can...
Yeah, okay, yeah. So, I guess to be more...
It's this movie, but it's about the Nuremberg trials.
Yeah. to be more accurate, this movie is very good because it's ambiguous as to whether she is going to be found innocent or not. Because, the prosecution, and the judge can't just think, well, okay, yeah, this guy's crazy, and that's it. No, you have to consider everything that she's doing. And of course the prosecution, is... that they're trying to find her guilty. So
and there are like moments that look really bad for her, like when she didn't tell them about the argument and like lied about it.
Yeah, exactly.
And lying about the way she got the bruise.
Yeah, stuff like that. I mean, for instance, you could look at that argument and think, well, that is evidence of her being correct and him being deranged. What I was going to say is, in that instance, you could maybe make an argument that, if she was innocent, then she'd say, yeah, we had an argument where he was just saying all this crazy stuff and just acting irrationally, the day before. And then, therefore, that would support her argument. But she didn't say that, of course. But she until, of course, this video came to light. So, yeah, it is ambiguous about whether she is going to be found innocent or not. And there are, again different sides. And it doesn't really matter whether, whether she is innocent or not. It's just like who makes the best argument, which is always the case.
And who makes the best story, as those news people say.
Yes, exactly. Who makes the best story. And... yeah, it's both. Basically, it's just believable how, you're watching this and you're like, oh, I don't know whether she is going to be found innocent or guilty. And yes, there is...
Yeah, like, it's not a movie about someone where we see at the start that she's, like, one way or the other.
Yeah.
And then we know. It's like, we find out... What information we find out as the trial's unfolding. So it's kind of like... Our assessment of it hangs in the balance alongside also being like, oh, what's information is the jury getting and how are they going to react to that?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, so it's just very well written. And yeah, these kind of movies have to be very well written if they're going to be exciting, and it was. So let's get into the script now, Michael.
So, novelist Sandra Voiter decides to reschedule her interview with a female student because her husband, Samuel, plays music loudly in their attic, disrupting the interview. I don't know what they say about him, but he's a motherfucking PIM.
Yeah, I think that well, PIMP, obviously.
Yeah,
But
no, that wouldn't rhyme.
It's such a French thing to play.
Oh, yeah, I was thinking that, yeah.
Yeah, I like if because it's a 20-year-old song. And
Yes.
so yes, let me play this cool hip new song from America. PIMP.
They really are stuck in the past.
Yeah, it's like, why would you play that? Like, again, this isn't 2003. Like, what are you doing, man? But yeah, later on, of course, and this is, I think this bit was quite funny. This was like the funniest bit, and if there were more moments like this, you could say it may be going overboard with the ambiguity, it may be, jumping the shark, as it were. But of course, the lawyer mentions that PAMP has misogynistic lyrics.
Yes.
And her lawyer responds, it was just the instrumental version, which is quite funny, Yeah. Yeah. And again, if there were more moments like that, I'd be like, okay, calm down there. But it was just like one moment like that, showing like the back and forth of, no, this is a good point, actually. There's a counterpoint, and, you're stuck in the middle, basically. And that was a good example of that.
Yes.
But yeah, PAMP, what a song. They played it when it won the Oscar, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, really? Is that true?
Yeah.
That's so interesting. Yeah. I had okay, look, I have something which, this should probably have been a nitpick, to be honest, because it's a very small thing, and I thought the sound mixing of this film was really weird, in that, to me, it sounded like he was playing that music insanely loud, and I just found it confusing when they're doing the whole oh, how loud was the music thing, and could you hear a conversation in the other room, and I'm the way it sounded, how loud the music was playing in my headphones, and again, that's why I'm saying this isn't really that significant, because it was just my headphones, maybe, but it sounded so loud, I feel if I was actually in that room, I wouldn't be able to hear someone just a few feet away from me.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is,
Yeah, so that doesn't really. It was just something that I was oh, that seems like an inconsistent. Well, again, I'm not really happens... this did not factor into my opinion of the movie at all. Okay. So that's why it should have been a nitpick.
What happens next?
So, when Sandra's blind son Daniel returns home from a walk, he finds Samuel dead from an apparent fall. Sandra insists the fall must have been accidental. Her lawyer Vincent suggests suicide. I have something I like here, by the way, which is it's kind of something that plays throughout the film, but it's so it's something you kind of more realize at the end, but the fact that obviously there's no positive here, in that basically the options for this woman, in terms of how it could be either, well, I guess the option for us, I suppose, is either this woman kills her husband or her husband committed suicide, and I kind of like that idea that she has to wrestle with the fact of the kind of the good scenario for her, quote unquote, is that her husband committed suicide, because it's and I thought that was an interesting tension, where it's obviously, because you don't want to be found guilty of murder. But the only way that happens is by reconciling yourself to the reality that what actually happened is that your husband killed himself, and obviously that would be a real emotional mindfuck.
Yes, well, she says she thinks it's an accident, and maybe that's a coping thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Or maybe that is actually what happened, and this whole thing is just bullshit, and he actually did fall. But of course, I think the lawyer has to say it's not accidental, so the whole trial starts. But yeah, again, it's just, this is what I'm talking about with the ambiguity, and it's just such an interesting premise or scenario that Justin Triet has crafted here. And yeah, again, suicide, murder, or an accident. And I think there is a potential for it to be a suicide that was an attempt to frame Sandra.
I was thinking that too.
Which no one brings up, no one says that's a possibility, but it could have been potentially. Again, which is interesting, but the movie, of course, it opens the possibility for that to happen.
So, after an investigation, Daniel's conflicting accounts, combined with the fact that Samuel had a head wound before his body hit the ground, and a recording of a fight between Samuel and Sandra the previous day, Sandra is indicted on charges of homicide. Yeah, things go pretty badly for her in a very quick succession.
But all these things combined would lead to an indictment. But it also keeps the ambiguity up, which is a word.
None of this stuff is conclusive.
Yeah, but it is enough. Okay, there's stuff going on here. Yeah, we're going to charge her. So yeah, and I keep using that word ambiguity because that's what this whole movie relies on. And yeah, it's they clearly thought about it, Justin Triet and the other writer. Okay, what can we use as evidence to get this to a trial? But also at the same time, okay, we don't want it to be so, as you said, conclusive that, she definitely did it. So yeah, they're thinking smartly about this.
So Sandra's team claims Samuel fell, while the prosecution posits that Sandra hit him with a blunt object and pushed him. And they have to get in a splatter analyst.
Yeah,
sounds
Dexter.
That's one of those jobs. Oh, is that what he actually is in the show?
Yeah, have you not seen Dexter?
No, I heard that this final season's really bad.
Well, yeah, the final few are.
Okay. I mean, when should one stop watching it?
When I stopped watching it after season 4, because there's something that happens in season 4 which made me want to start watching season 5. But it is a perfect ending to the show, honestly, in the last episode of season 4. But anyway,
Oh, that's good. I like when that happens.
yeah. So yeah. By the way, it's Samuel, not Samuel. I don't know.
Oh, okay, yeah, Samuel. That makes sense because that's how his name's spelled.
Firstly, I want to shout out Antonio or Anthony or Antoine. I think that's probably right. Antoine Reinhardt as the prosecutor. The bold,
He's the bold guy. Yeah.
He is so good in this role. Like he's amazing. He was born to be this prosecutor. Like he's so intense.
Yeah,
and,
I also like how sometimes he does little jokes.
Yeah.
Like the one where it's like, oh, so usually a perfect woman, but the one time you get recorded, rotten luck.
Yeah, he's such a twatty French person. Like all French people are like this, you know.
I know, yeah, that actually is how it is. Like when they, especially if they feel like they're right and they feel like they've got you wrong, they're really snooty about it.
Yeah, he's cast so perfectly, and that's the thing. People could say, like he's too much of a dick, but no, that's just like what French people are. That is. Have you never been to France? Have you never met a French person?
It's to their advantage that they set this film in France.
Yeah, so yeah, it's that this guy would grow up to be a prosecutor, absolutely, you know.
Yeah. In the English version of the film, would be like, I think maybe you're mistaken about what happened.
Yes, so that's a good point for the movie. The second one isn't. I'm not criticizing the movie. I'm just saying this in general. The French trial system is a fucking joke. Like I was watching this and I couldn't believe it. It was chaos. You know, people can just chime in whenever they like.
Yeah, I actually don't really know how the English system works, to be honest.
Well, I think it's more, standard. It's more like the American system, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
I mean, we hardly see it on TV compared to the American system, but I mean, I imagine the American system was based off the British system.
I've seen Judge Rinder.
Yeah, but you have, you have a person on the witness stand. You know, that's you still have that in the British justice system, and you're called to speak, and they're not like. They are sat next to the judge, like in the American version.
Oh yeah, that's it. Yeah, here they're like in front of everyone.
Yeah, they're here in front of, and everyone can just chime in when they're like the defendant can just start talking. I don't know how it works. It just must be chaos. Like, what a ridiculous country France is.
In a recorded fight, Samuel accuses Sandra of plagiarism, infidelité, and exerting control over him before the argument turns violent. So what I like about this, and I'm sure that everyone knows this, it's like a pretty obvious, intentional choice made, is that the moment when the physical fight ensues, whereupon a visual aid would be of use to us in determining what's happening. Obviously, it then cuts to the court. So obviously, like while they're just talking, we can watch it unfold because that doesn't really give us any extra information. But when they start fighting, then we get the court's perspective. I noticed that.
Exactly.
Good choice.
Exactly. So you see how smart it is.
Well, I mean, it's a pretty obvious choice, but
it's not. No, it's not.
Yeah, it's pretty. Yeah, I could have come up with that choice.
When we actually get into the movie, you realize, oh yeah, that's actually so smart what they did. I will say, I don't know if this is a criticism again, but it's the two have this argument, and it's the most coherent, well thought out argument ever. You mean
like it's kind of like scripted, very...
Well, most couples aren't like this, but again, they're like professors, they're very smart people. But yeah, also I will say the acting is really good at the same time.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a fantastic scene, and it's one of those scenes which it's the highlight of the movie.
Yes, absolutely. And yeah, I would say I think I would agree that it's possible that someone could actually have this argument, and that would be like a realistic argument two people could have, especially considering they're both like smarty pants type people.
Well, yeah, that's what I said. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
The prosecutor notes that the possible murder mirrors a minor character's thoughts from Sandra's recent novel. Sandra protests that recording doesn't represent their relationship, nor does her novel reflect her own inclinations. Yeah, this is like another thing they throw very much out of left field. That she wrote this.
Well, I don't know if it's left
but someone
field.
Makes the clever point like, is Stephen King a serial killer?
Yeah, but there's so many layers, again, this back and forth. Like, okay, she wrote a book. Okay, and this book has a character talking about murdering her husband. But it's only a minor character, and it's only like this character's thoughts. So it just, you have to get really into the detail, and everything is, again, just kept ambiguous. And Justin Trier and the other writer, they made sure like one side doesn't have such a strong argument over the other. It's, again, it's right down the line. And it presents this interesting question: how much evidence can be, I guess, gleaned from an argument or a novel? And honestly, I'd say quite little. I would not go off that. I think it's quite...
Yeah, I wouldn't go off of the novel.
Yeah, because these people are creative people. The concept of a wife murdering a husband isn't so crazy.
Yeah, that's my thoughts too. It's a very common thing that happens.
Yes, again, but this is the prosecutor trying to make the case. And so, yeah, therefore, I think it can be used as evidence, but again, so it's just interesting, how Justin Triet thought about all this, and yeah, it's and do you like the other thing that happens, which I think is very smart, which is Sandra stops talking in French.
Yes, and she starts speaking English.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to ask, what about that, Luke, is really smart?
Because she's told to speak in French, right?
Yes.
But she clearly hasn't mastered the language.
Yeah, she can't like communicate the complexities of her feelings very well in French. She's like, I cannot do this. Can I speak in?
Yeah, exactly.
I cannot do this. Can I speak in English, please?
Yeah, I need to speak in my mother tongue. No.
The tongue of English.
Yeah.
That is like that's peak Germanic energy, right? Like.
Yeah, but that's the thing. She wants to be more precise. You know,
intentional.
Yes, so I'll speak in French, but no, I need to be more precise, so I'm just going to start talking in English. But then the prosecutor, of course, who can understand English, he still speaks in French because he's like, yeah, I'm going to speak in French because this is a French trial and this will help me, I guess, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess maybe he's using his language because he can be more precise because he obviously is French. But yeah, I just think that's really smart. It's like a big deal is made. No, you got to speak French. And then she's like, "Nah, I'm going to speak English because I need to just be precise."
Yeah,
with what I say.
Yeah, which you can't really blame her. But now none of the French people will be able to understand the precision because they'll be like, "Can you speak French? Because I need you to be more precise in terms of what I'm hearing." Anyway, Daniel recalls Snoop fell 6 months ago. Oh, sorry, I read that completely wrong. Whoops. Daniel recalls Snoop fell sick months ago. Yeah, Snoop. See, if it wasn't for the fact there was a character called Snoopy, I'd 100% be like, oh, they named him after... I named him after the new hip rapper, Snoop Dogg. Snoop Doggy Dogg. But I'm like, no, presumably it's Snoopy, but you just, again, with the French. Possibly due to eating Samwell's vomit. He feeds Snoop aspirin and finds it has the same effect. Danwell says that when Samwell was driving Snoop to the vet, Samwell spoke about the need to be prepared that those he loves will die, which Daniel interprets as his father's suicidal thoughts. Yeah, I would say, this obviously is a very strong point in favor of the fact that he did do suicide. I kind of like how at the end, the prosecutor's just like, I can't remember his exact wording, but he's kind of like, he dismisses it in a very half-hearted way that kind of feels like, he's like, the court will be reminded that this is just speculation or whatever he says, like something to that effect, like, this is just a subjective account. But I kind of feel like it was like, yeah, okay, this is it's probably DOA on the whole she killed him plan.
Yeah, I like that as well. Like, he has to maintain his professionalism, you know.
So yeah, like that's the thing, because I mean that's the funny thing about courts in general. Like even if you like as a prosecutor, obviously people talk about like defenders who think that their client did it, but yeah, even like a prosecutor, if they're like, oh, actually I think this guy might be innocent, they still have to like try to act as if they think they're not. Yeah,
so Samwell, of course, tried to unalive himself before, so therefore he would do it again, of course. And Daniel basically saves his mother, but in the movie, he has this conversation with the guardian who's looking after him. And, you know, the movie kind of sees it as this is his truth. This is his choice he's made, you know, basically to save his mother. But for me, it's just a logical conclusion that you would come to because of his dad's previous suicide attempts. You know, he picks his mother and saves her, but it's not a leap of faith. You know, he didn't choose to save her and put his thumbs on the scale unjustly.
Yeah, he just communicated what was true.
Yeah, this guy had tried to take his life before. I think that was pretty clear.
Yeah, so, I mean, just to jump back, like, there's a whole thing, like, early on, he, like, gets mixed up about, like, what room he was in, and you kind of get the impression, like, oh, is he, like, lying to protect his mum? Yes. And, like, I think maybe he was at some points, like, early on, maybe, but then, like, obviously, I don't think you could argue there that he's, kind of, like you said.
Yeah, so that's why I didn't really get the conversation of, like, oh, he's torn, should he save his mum? Well, no, this is evidence that you have. You know, that backs up what your mum is saying.
Well, you've got to bear in mind that according to a professional reviewer, he's the sole witness who faces a moral dilemma.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't think it's a moral dilemma, really. It's like, you know, he's just presenting evidence, and it is useful because, okay, this guy did try to commit suicide. But again, I still think it leaves things open to interpretation because, well, he committed suicide with, you know, aspirin. That's a lot different to what apparently he did do, which is, you know,
jump out the window,
jump out, you know, of his balcony and hit his head on the...
It's kind of like, you know, like snow is one of the best things you can fall on in terms of not dying. So I feel like there's a million times out of 10, because he didn't fall from that high. There's like a lot of... I feel like the survivability of that fall is not super low.
Yes. As
a splatter analysis.
So, yeah, okay, yeah, well done, Dexter. But anyway, Sandra is acquitted following Daniel's testimony.
Yes.
And was she innocent? That is the question. Well, she's found innocent, but was she innocent? Now, you think definitely. I think, yeah, I would say so.
Yeah, there's certainly not what they call in the business a reasonable doubt, or rather, there is a reasonable doubt as to her guilt.
Yeah, I don't know if that matters in France,
Yeah,
though.
they probably don't, yeah.
Yeah, the
They're
reasonable
just
doubt.
firing up the guillotine.
Yeah, but again, she was told to play innocent by the director. But of course, that doesn't mean Sandra Hüller, just because she's told to be innocent, that doesn't mean the character is innocent. The thing is, of course, what also I was thinking, she could just divorce him, if she really didn't want him.
That's a good point, yeah.
To be around anymore, and of course, you think she is innocent. And what would you put that as a percentage?
Oh, I really hate percentages, but I'm going to say, for what it's worth, I'm just going to say 95.
Okay, wow, that's quite high. I'm thinking.
I just don't. I don't see. Well, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
Maybe I'd be a bad jury member.
Yeah, I'm thinking about 80. Of course, Justin Triet said, there is. She wants to keep it ambiguous. She did not reveal if Sandra Voita was innocent or guilty, but there is, I think, a clue as to why she created this movie, which
she killed her husband.
No,
that would be like meta if this movie is then used as evidence against her in a court of law.
Yes, well, this quote from her, I think, is a good clue as to what she was trying to do with this movie, why she created this. So, Triet has also stated that the fundamental question of the film is the question of reciprocity in the couple.
That's good.
Stating that culturally, women have always been at home and men have gone out into the world and have had the time to think, to reflect, to have ideas. The fact of having a female character who's a creator, who writes books, who's in this position, at last, of taking time to write, means that it's the man who suffers. It's something universal and fundamental vis-a-vis the place of men and women in the family. So basically, she's saying, look at this. The man is suffering. Isn't this unusual? And it leads him to commit suicide.
Yeah, there's definitely like a gendered dynamic going on here.
Yes, and so given what she said, well, it would be weird if she's saying, yes, so if the man is forced to be in the woman's place, well, the woman kills him.
Yeah.
No, it's more likely she's saying, well, think about it. The man is doing the stereotypical job that the woman does, and it leads him down a suicidal path. So does that make us think a bit more about women's role, women's traditional role, and how maybe it's not the best thing, and how, you're basically, when we see a man in this position, he suffers, and therefore, of course,
Yeah, we can infer women are suffering.
Yes, women are suffering, and it infers, of course, that then, he then committed suicide because he is suffering, So yeah, I definitely think that is a big clue to,
This is why all the women had to take antidepressants in the 50s.
Yes. So let us now, what are we going to rate it out of 10?
Oh, that's a really good question, Luke. So I know I do have a habit, you're right. Sometimes we'll talk about a movie and I'll dramatically change my opinion. But not so here.
Yeah, of course,
because nothing actually that was mentioned is something I wasn't already aware of. Middling 7.
Yeah, okay, 9 for me. 9 out of 10. This was really good. Again, it's really smart. It can't get a 10 because, it is limited as to what it is. It is just a courtroom drama. But yeah. 9 out of 10, I think it's really good. Deserved to win Best Screenplay. But what are we going on to next?
Next, we're going on to The Holdovers. So, Luke, why don't you tell us a thing or two about The Holdovers?
Yes, certainly, Michael. So, The Holdovers is a 2023 American Christmas comedy drama film directed by Alexander Payne. Yeah, of course, it's a Christmas movie, but it's a winter movie, and so it seems right to be reviewing this movie in the winter, right?
Yeah. For me, and this is a really minor thing, but for me, weirdly, even though this movie has loads of Christmas music in it, for some reason, the film just doesn't feel that Christmassy. This is not something that relates to my rating at all, but it's even though I'm watching it, I'm I can see all the Christmassy stuff going on. I just, Christmas has just happened, and I was thinking, it's really weird, because you'd think there'd be a disconnect of, hey, Christmas is over, why am I watching this Christmas movie? But, if we were watching, Home Alone, or whatever, or A Muppet's Christmas Carol, I'd be well, obviously this is really weird that we're watching this immediately after Christmas. But yeah, it doesn't really matter. But I just found it strange that for me this movie just didn't feel Christmassy, and I can't put my finger on why it didn't. I mean, it's kind of there obviously are depressing moments in it, so maybe that's it. But whatever.
I mean, it felt kind of Christmassy. It's got a nice.
I feel like it insisted upon itself.
It's got a nice message to it. So it was directed by Alexander Payne, of course. It stars Paul Giamatti, Davine Joy Randolph, Dominic Sessa, and that's it. It's the only people who matter. It was released on October the 27th, 2023 in the US. And Michael, can we guess the budget?
Yes. This time I'm actually, what did I say last time? I said 16 million or 18 million. This time I felt I'm going to go for 16 million again.
Okay, and what about the box office?
I'm going to say the box office was... I don't know if this movie did, like, insanely good. I said 25 million last time. I might just say that again, 25 million.
Okay, so the budget was 13 million, and so you were close there, and the box office was 45.6.
Okay, so I don't feel proud of that.
Yeah, people liked it. It's a Christmas movie. It's got a nice message. I think you could predict it was going to do quite well. So, Michael, did you like this movie?
I don't want to fall foul of you again. I thought this movie was good. I felt like this movie was quite cliche with the fact it's like an odd couple, and they're forced into this situation together, and then they kind of they make friends. Maybe they discover they have some stuff in common. It does that perfectly well. But I think like that is a pretty typical, not like massively inspired setup. So I again still liked this movie. I'll say this: I actually like this movie less than Anatomy of a Fool. But yeah, I did strictly speaking like it. But yeah, like I say, the essential thing of like what this movie is a very kind of crowd pleasing, by the numbers idea for a story. Even though obviously does some interesting stuff with it.
Yeah. Again, I think you're correct in that. Yeah, it is a cliche, or it is. It does use, familiar tropes which we've seen before. It does affect the movie for me, but it's a fun movie. At some points, it's well acted. I'll say that it's really well acted. The performances are really good.
Did you like when Paul Giamatti farted?
Yes, that was.
I remember there was like a whole thing on Twitter because like someone posted a picture. He says like a weird word. I can't remember what it is he says. But like he says something like that sounds kind of weird and cryptic, and then he just like farts and he lies in bed. And I remember someone being like, "I can't believe people think Paul Giamatti should win an Oscar for this." And I don't know if they're like being serious because obviously like but like I like to imagine it for some people. Like, this movie is just about a guy who like farts. Yeah,
it's got some earnestness to it, and of course cliches exist, but. Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes when you watch a movie, you're like, yes, the cliche is there, we can all see it, but it's done very well. The cliche is executed well, it's acted well, so therefore you kind of forgive it. And I feel like that was the case while watching this movie. So yeah, I kind of liked it. I thought it was kind of good. It was enjoyable, but it's not great. It should not win best screenplay. Like for instance, Anatomy of a Fall should and did.
I would also say this should not win best screenplay.
Yeah. So let us get into the movie, Michael.
Yeah, so...
Well, I've got a lit pick first.
Oh, of course.
So the Dominic Sessa character, what's he called? Angus Tully. He says that he's seen Guernica in New York. And
with the weird horses.
I've seen Guernica as well.
Did you see it in New York?
I've seen it at the Reina Sofia Museum in Spain.
Yes, because you went there.
Yes, and he's right, Guernica is huge. It's so big. It's incredible. Yeah. But yeah, so many people were taking photos of it, and I've got a photo, which is going to be the thumbnail. No, it's not. But yeah, Guernica.
It's going to be a selfie of you.
No, I didn't take a selfie with Guernica.
Face reveal.
Yeah.
Throwing up gang signs.
Yeah, that would be quite inappropriate. Given the actual meaning behind the painting. But yeah, let us get into the plot.
Yeah, so a curmudgeonly instructor at a prep school is forced to remain on campus during Christmas break to babysit a handful of students with nowhere to go. Eventually forms an unlikely bond with one of them, a damaged, brainy troublemaker. Is it unlikely though? Come on. Oh, I see what you're saying there. So yeah, eventually forms an unlikely bond. Yeah, like that's the thing. There's like two words there. Well, so like the curmudgeonly. Like the cliches, again, I don't want to be like really negative in this film because like I said, I'm going to give it an overall positive appraisal.
Yeah.
But like the cliches are like, this guy's a curmudgeonly old guy. Okay, like that's like a very kind of, it's like, feels like this would be like a Clint Eastwood character in that movie, whatever it is, Gran Torino.
Well, no, the opposite really, because this guy's, not...
Oh yeah, he's a bit gay.
Yeah, he's a bit gay.
Yeah. But then you also have like the damaged, brainy troublemaker. Like, he's really smart deep down, and like he's got intelligence, but he's just not got the direction. That's like obviously a very stereotypical idea.
Just needs to apply himself. Needs a mentor to put an arm around his shoulder.
Yeah. That's it.
Yeah. We've seen that so many times before. But yeah, I think what is interesting is like this awful teacher that you have. At school, like what if they were an actual person? What would be like if they got exposed? And yeah, I like kind of the fact that the fact this guy has to move on from Barton Academy while Angus Tully kind of has to embrace it. They have to
they switch places.
Yeah, exactly. That is the case. They have to switch places.
They're trading places.
Yes, and yeah, obviously there's this other message that the world is not as simple as a school for this guy. What's he called? Fucking Hunnam, that's his name.
Yeah, Hunnam. I wrote it down actually.
Yeah, but he's hunkered down there because he feels safe. And I compared it to the Dead Poets Society, that movie.
Yes. Oh, Captain, my Captain.
Yeah, but the teacher needs a bit of carpe diem, not the student. And the student shows the teacher a bit of carpe diem, and it's kind of the opposite of Dead Poets in that regard, Yeah. But I only thought of that when I.
It's like a teacher. Like sometimes I feel like the students are the ones teaching me.
Yeah, well, in the next bit, of course, which you'll read now, the movie is compared to or contrasted to to Dead Poets.
Yeah, so the writer David Hemmingson agreed on the 1970 setting because 1958 was too close to Dead Poets Society's timeline. Okay, so I guess the implication there is that originally it was a plan for 1958. Then you couldn't have had someone die in Vietnam.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, what did they die in 1958? Smallpox? No, wait, what was it? Polio?
Yeah, maybe
the war on polio.
The Korean War a few years earlier.
The Korean War, but really late.
Yeah. Yeah. So, of course, it was compared to... Well, David Hemmingson had in his mind, okay, shit, this is going to be compared to Dead Poets. So it's like the opposite. It's the teacher who, of course, gets inspired, and some critics, of course, accused it of being, cliche, of course, but also this was a term I liked. Like, it was lovingly cliche. It was cliche, but it was done lovingly. It wasn't done in a cynical way, and I think that can make a difference.
Pleasantly cheesy.
Yeah,
just like the French.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, both the characters need to, of course, grow up in different ways, and
yes,
it's how it's done. Again, the acting is so good. The actors are what make this, I think, really good. Like Paul Giamatti, of course, almost won an Oscar for this, didn't he? Yes, yeah,
for farting.
Yes, so it would be quite bland if it wasn't executed well. So, I think I have to forgive its predictability.
Yeah, I would say like if this was going to win an Oscar for something, it wouldn't be best screenplay. It would be best supporting actor.
Yes, exactly.
Is Giamatti? I don't know if he's a supporting actor. I assume he is.
No. He's
the main guy.
Yeah,
I suppose. Yeah,
I assume so, because if he's best supporting, that makes no sense because he's the main character.
Yeah, in my head, Angus seems like significance, but yeah, I get you. I guess I'm just used to like young people being more important because we're the future. Anyway. Staying behind, poor Hunnam is scolded by his headmaster for costing the school money by flunking a donor's son. Hunnam is forced to supervise 5 students left on campus during the Christmas break. Okay, so this gets to like one thing, like this film, I'll call it a theme, because it is something that it does touch on quite a lot, which is this idea of like these kids are privileged, they're spoiled, they don't appreciate what they have. There are like loads of moments throughout the film where either like one of the kids says something kind of like obnoxious and arrogant.
Yeah, can I just talk about the scene at the start though?
Absolutely.
When Paul Hunnam is being scolded.
Yes.
The dialogue is, and this isn't the case in the rest of the movie, the dialogue here is so bad.
Because it's like he was the wealthiest donor, like the kind of like the expositoriness of it. Yeah,
it's just so unsubtle. And it's really, when I watched this for the first time last year and watched this opening,
you were like, oh god,
I was like, oh Jesus Christ, this is really bad. Like,
yeah,
this is like he was, like you say, this guy was our donor's son, and how could you have done what you did? I failed him because I had to,
this feels like my wife and I watched a load of, for fun, we watched a load of like cheesy like Hallmark Christmas movies over Christmas, and obviously they have like all the dialogues exactly like that, like, this is the big Christmas parade, it's where we get loads of money that we raise for this charity that your grandfather really supported, but you don't care about the spirit of Christmas. Like, that's how every single character talks. So like that's literally like what the scene from this was like.
It's ridiculous. Thankfully it's not bad throughout the rest of the movie.
Yes. So staying behind at Christmas is Staying behind at school is Angus Tully and Mary Lamb, whose son Curtis attended Barton and died in the Vietnam War. Unlike most Barton students, Curtis did not get student deferment as he could not afford to go to college. So 2 things here. 1, have you ever noticed how like Angus is like a kind of beef and lamb is another red meat? So clearly. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I just want to say, obviously, this movie, like you said before, brings up the class implications,
also
or just
race.
It talks about race, it talks about class, and the rich kids survive, the black kids don't, and the poor kids don't as well. But again, it's just not subtle. Like, it's just very obvious. I'm pretty sure everyone watching this movie is aware of the racism that existed in the 1970s, and or just not the racism, like the fact that America has a class system. Rich kids, who have gone to good schools, who have important parents, don't have to fight in Vietnam. Like, this is a thing that I think everyone knows. So I don't know why the movie like really insists on discussing this or talking about it rather than, oh yeah, it's just a given. Like, obviously,
I would agree with that. Yeah, like it's yeah, I'd agree. It's not very subtle. And, you know, some of the dialogue's not subtle. But it's like, I know her son died, but could she just shut up about it? But then, like, I am like, to be fair, like, kids can be, like, absolute monsters. So maybe that is realistic.
Yeah, but it's when, you know, Paul Giamatti, his character, has a line. It's like, and why did this black kid go to Vietnam? Isn't that weird? Well, it's like, it's like, obviously, like, everyone knows the world that you live in. Like, the audience certainly does. Like, there's no point in bringing it up, you know? So, but anyway, what happens next?
Yeah, so after 6 days, a student's father arrives by helicopter and agrees to take all 5 students on the family's ski trip with their parents' permission. Angus, unable to reach his parents, is left alone at Barton. Now, here's the big thing I want to say about this. I was really confused and surprised that you have about 40 minutes establishing these 5 kids, and then just 4 of them leave. Where is it? There's 6 kids and then 5 of them leave? I can't remember how many kids there are. Okay, 6 kids and 5 of them leave. Yeah, so you have these 6
kids. 4 leave, yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah, so you have these 5 kids, and 4 of them just leave, and they're like never seen again. And I'm kind of like, what was the point in that? Because
no, I like that. It's a good twist.
It's a fine. I agree. It arguably made the thing more interesting, but I was also like it's just a bit weird to me that they like stick around and it's at the beginning and you like, because I was like, oh, like this Kuntz guy, is something going to happen with him? Oh, like, you know, it just seemed like they were kind of forming a camaraderie, and then it was just I kind of agree that it was nice and that it changed. Yeah, technically it was a twist.
Yeah,
in that it was a thing that was different. But I did think it was a bit weird.
Well, no, you're saying it's a bit weird, but that's the point of the twist. It's like, oh, I didn't expect that to happen, and it's, you know, the movie is interesting because it's about the relationship between Hunnam and Angus Tully. So
I wouldn't disagree that it probably left more opportunity for the film to get a bit better in terms of being more intimate.
Yeah, and they go, and yeah, that's the thing. It's nice, you know. And I will say that if I was this kid, I would kill myself, honestly. Like, you think you're going to St. Kitts, and then you're not, and then also you have the chance to escape to the ski lodge or whatever, and it slips through your fingers, and it's like, no, I can't. Just please pick up the phone, for fuck's sake. And
this made me think about like The Simpsons when Bart has the worst day ever, and it's like, time to go to the chocolate factory. I trust you all remembered your permission slips.
Yeah. So I like how it's done. It's well thought out. So
it is like a really bad day. Yeah, and like honestly, I was thinking to myself like after this movie, I was like, if you show your kid Harry Potter, and then, you know, they get to like 11 and like, oh, I didn't get my magic boarding school thing. You just need to show them this movie, because like there are like movies that make it seem like boarding school is like this really magical, like even like non-magical movies where, oh, you have like adventures.
I mean, I think that's pretty commonly known, you know.
Well, yeah, I'm just saying people need to know that they're bad places
where kids get sexually abused. But anyway, let's move on.
Exactly, by Mr. Hunnam. So Angus and Hunnam encounter Lydia Crane, who invites them and Mary to a Christmas party. At the party, Mary has an emotional breakdown over Curtis's death. Why didn't she just get over it? Hunnam and Angus argue, with Mary scolding Hunnam for his behaviour. Yeah, so this is just like, I did like them going to the party. I thought it like introduced a new, just like a new situation. Like obviously you get to see Tully hanging out with this hot niece.
Yeah, I like, she's, I don't know if she's over 18.
This sexy niece.
Good job. Do you want people to think you're a paedophile?
This gorgeous, beautiful. No, okay, anyway. Let's proceed.
He's being challenged about his behaviour, is Hunnam, which is nice for a teacher in a position of authority. That's what I like. I like to see him being challenged by Mary, and it just, you know, it creates an interesting dynamic that you just don't often see in these movies. And I know, you know, from having teachers in the past who are quite hard on you, just to see them challenge and be like, no, you're being a dick. That, you know, there is something nice about seeing that on screen, you know.
I think we know a teacher who should really have that message communicated to them.
I know, by a black woman as well. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. I feel like, the black woman, like, sometimes, like, you feel like she's got that, you know, like that sassy, like, I
knew you were going to say that word.
What? Yeah, but, like, that's the thing. It's not my fault, it's the movie's fault. Like, she's like, what the hell is wrong with you saying stuff like that? You know, which is, like, a very, like, obviously she had to have that role.
Yeah.
Mary persuades Hunnam to grant Angus's wish for a field trip to Boston. Angus and Hunnam visit Boston, where Angus tells Hunnam the students and teachers hate him. So again, like you said, you liked when this teacher gets bullied. Well, here he's getting bullied even more, getting told that everyone hates him, that he sucks.
Yeah, he
smells bad.
Yeah, this is when I say it's well executed, because there's this gradual process of him, you know, he just dismissed this, you know, if this was said to him at school. But, you know, it's this process of him being broken down and just him being forced to confront his own life and confront himself. And this now matters to him. You know, again, I think if Angus said this to him when, you know, they were teaching, he's just like, oh, whatever. But yeah, you can see like he is forced to reflect on it, and there is this inner sadness within him. So he just doesn't respond at all. He doesn't have a comeback. So it like it's hurt him, and he's actually upset about his life, and he's being honest. And yeah, again, it's good to see. It's not right off the bat, and he eventually this is the character arc. He just is eventually being forced to confront it. And again, it's cliche, but I think it's done well.
The pair encounter a classmate of Hunnam's from Harvard. Hunnam lies about his career and tells Angus he was expelled from Harvard after a legacy donor's son accused him of plagiarism, and Hunnam hit him with his car. I do like so obviously again this is advancing on the whole like Hunnam's got he's one of those socialists with a chip on his shoulder. He's just upset to see other people make it, the other people. But I liked the bit where it was like, oh, I hit him, and like it slowly you kind of like there's a bit of a they kind of reveal like that is with the car. It's kind of like a joke because like you hear it and it's like, oh, I hit him, and you just assume, oh, he punched him. And it's like I hit him with my car.
Yeah,
Which I thought like that was a good comedy there.
It's an interesting backstory, and again, he is behaving like a real human being. He's not just behaving like a teacher at the school where he can behave a certain way and he can be safe. No, he's being forced to confront that. Yeah, he is a real human being. He's acknowledging that by lying and admitting he's upset about his life. And, and
it's like what the word? It's like when someone's sad and they put up like a harsh exterior to disguise the fact that deep down they're really vulnerable.
Again, it is a cliche, but what you just described is a cliche. But again, it's done well. Like he's basically going on a trip where he's just realizing he's being forced because you know all this stuff, but if you're at Barton Academy every day doing classical history, you don't actually need to confront that. You can just live in this fantasy world.
Angus says that he wants to see his father, and Hunnam agrees, not realizing his father is alive and confined in a psychiatric hospital. Following the visit, Angus expresses concern that his future behaviour will echo his father's. Hunnam says Angus is not the same person as his father. This is like, I guess, emotionally resonant. It's like a sad moment. I like the bit where he's like, oh, that's fine, we can go to a cemetery, and like they don't. I like the cut where it's just like then you see them driving to the mental place, because sometimes it's powerful
the
when
mental
things are left
place.
unsaid. The lunatic location.
Yeah, no, I think it's an interesting twist. Again, I like it. But the whole thing of bonding over your father. Oh, don't worry,
very common.
You're not your father. Don't worry. I mean, that's is very cliche, and I don't think it really added anything. It's because Hunnam has not said anything about his father beforehand.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I'll also say this: they clearly missed an opportunity later on, and we'll just get into this momentarily, when Hunnam is confronted about the way they do things in the school and how his behavior is inappropriate. He should have said, "You're saying I took him to a madhouse? This is the real madhouse."
Okay,
I think that would have been a great moment. And then the principal would have been like, "No one's ever stood up to me before." When school resumes, Hunnam is summoned to Woodrop's office. Angus's mother and stepfather want to withdraw Angus from Barton after the visit to his father. Hunnam defends Angus and blames himself, lying that he persuaded Angus to visit his father. Woodrop allows Angus to remain at Barton, but fires Hunnam. So there we go. He sacrifices himself, much like Jesus.
I put that. Yeah, he sacrificed himself to save the boy. Yeah, just like Jesus. It's a real Christmas tale, isn't it?
Suffer ye not the little children.
Yeah, and of course Angus needed someone to stand up for him, and he needed to do something brave. That's what each character needed. So therefore, it was always going this way, basically.
Yes.
But yeah, still, it is a good ending, nonetheless, because you feel like this guy in this situation would do what he did. Like beforehand, before the Christmas break, he would never do something like this. But go on.
I was just going to say, he does have a character arc.
Yeah, he does have a character arc, which, although cliche, is believable. And yeah, the same thing for this kid. It is somewhat cliche, but I'm not sure he has so much of a character arc. But he's just he's just kind of saved and like, okay, here you go, make use of the what I've done for you. You're not going to go and die in Vietnam. Yeah.
Mary, who has come to terms with Curtis's death, gives Hunnam a notebook. Hunnam and Angus share a farewell. In his car, Hunnam takes... I'm just remembering when the kid's like, I heard he was eating shit. Anyway, in his car, Hunnam takes a sip of the expensive cognac he stole from Woodrop, spits it towards the school, and drives away. Off to be a lonely, lonely man.
Yeah, fuck the rich. That's
who smells like fish.
Yeah. Yeah, fuck these people who have basically, ruined my life and confined my life. Yeah, he's finally breaking out of his shell, and he's going to live his life. And yeah, he's not living in the safe confines of the school where he could stick by the rules anymore. And yes, again, say it for the final time, it's cliche, but it's still told well. I will say Mary is kind of underdeveloped as a character. She's gotten over Curtis because of her sister, I guess, so I'm not really sure why that happened, but at least she's fine. And Davine Joy Randolph, she won a Best Supporting Actress Oscar, so I guess she's happy. Yeah. So let's conclude.
It's like it wasn't all for nothing. Yeah. So this is one of those movies where if you can describe this movie and make it sound very, very bad. And I think we've probably made this movie sound a little bit worse than it is, because it is really difficult to talk about this movie.
I don't think I have. Go on.
Okay, and talk about the bare bones of things that happen and like not make it sound incredibly cliche. But the one thing I want to say is the positive, which is it is well acted and it is like emotionally resonant. I wrote down a high 6, which is kind of, I think, crazy, because I think there have been like legitimate, like it is very cliche, but it does cliche all right. So high 6, yeah. I'm going to give it a high 6.
Yeah, I think 7.5 is, fine. Yeah, it's like I said at the start, like it's a good movie, but the predictability is a flaw, but at the end of the day, it's done really well. It's done with love, care, attention, effort, and the acting is really good. So yeah, even despite the tropes, a 7.5 I think is fair. So what's next, Michael?
Well, next it's the big one. It's Maestro. That's not a stro that belongs to me, but rather it is the name Maestro. Luke, why don't you tell us? Sorry, I'm just you're going to ask why is it the big one, weren't you?
Yeah.
His nose. His nose is the big one.
Okay.
So Luke, why don't you tell us a thing or two about Maestro?
So Maestro is a 2023 American biographical romantic drama film. Wow. So much. So incredible.
And biographical films are always good when they're nominated for the Oscars.
Yeah, especially a romantic drama as well. God, this is going to pick up all the Oscars.
It's guaranteed to. I wish I was writing, directing, producing, and starring in this film.
Yes, that centers on the life of American composer Leonard Bernstein. Or is it Bernstein? I'm not sure. Of course, that is a sensitive area.
Ask Jeremy Corbyn.
Yes, so it's directed by Bradley Cooper. It's written by Bradley Cooper.
Oh.
It's produced by Bradley Cooper. It stars Bradley Cooper and Kerry Mulligan. God, I bet he wish he could have fulfilled that role as well.
Yeah.
Like
Jack and Jill.
The release date was November the 22nd, 2023 in the United States. I believe on Netflix it was released. So yeah, what's the budget, Michael?
I think the real question is how much did Bradley Cooper pay them to let him make this movie? No, I have no idea, because presumably he was very willing to do it. I don't know. Was he in it for the Oscars and the big paycheck? 20 million.
80.
Oh, well, sometimes with Netflix, who knows? Wait, what?
80.
80.
Yeah.
Not 18.
You were gonna guess lower.
No. Well, I wasn't gonna guess much lower. I said 20. But that's insanely high, right? Like 80. I know like Bradley Cooper, okay, and I guess, but it's just Bradley Cooper.
Yeah, but it's shot really well, and I guess that makes a difference. But yeah,
it's true.
80 million is a lot for this movie. That's surprising.
That's a lot of money.
I would assumed it would be half that, to be honest. What about the box office? Considering it was on Netflix,
10 million.
No.
Sorry, it's probably less, isn't it? Because it was on Netflix. 2 million.
823,000.
Okay, cool. Yeah. I haven't fully worked out the Netflix effect.
Okay. Michael, did you like Maestro?
Well, look, everyone's supposed to hate this movie. Like, I think we're legally obligated to hate this movie because everyone decided they don't like Bradley Cooper. So I'll say this, look. No, I didn't like this movie. I think this movie is quite, in terms of like the plot and the characters, it's kind of boring. But there is like some genuine artistic merit in terms of like what's actually said. I'll confess, this is one of those movies where I'd love to say that I'm someone who goes into a movie a complete blank slate, but sometimes I'm watching a movie and I do think to myself, would I feel different about this movie if I hadn't heard loads of other people's opinions? Because I'm going to this movie and I've already heard everyone say, oh, it's a massive, crazy vanity project from Bradley Cooper, and like it insists upon itself and it's trying really desperately hard to be really artistic. And then I'm watching, I'm like, well, I can see that, but I'm like, well, would I feel that strongly? So essentially,
you just let movies pass through your brain, don't you?
Well, I'm just saying, like, I genuinely, like, I wish I could access the version of me who watched this movie having heard nothing about it from anyone, because I was watching this movie thinking to myself, oh, this is the movie that everyone says is like, the horrible Bradley Cooper vanity project. But insofar as I was able to, like a hero, overcome that and, just assess the movie myself, yes, that definitely has that aspect to it. I didn't hate this movie, though. Like, there are some people who seem to, like, hate this movie with a burning passion.
Can you name one of them?
YMS.
Yeah,
he gave it a 2 out of 10, and he said that he would feel dirty giving it higher than a 2.
Yeah, so I remember that. And yeah, I would say I agree with him.
Bah.
Yeah. but whatever.
Well, I like how you said that rather than pointing out I literally started off with a massive ramble about how I have no idea how I feel about this film if I hadn't heard loads of other people's opinions first, which is probably the bigger bad energy.
Well, yeah. Again, look, I don't think it's a 2 out of 10. I don't hate it as much as him, but certainly his criticism and the one you brought up, I think it's correct, right? It has to.
It makes you a bit of a grumpy stumpy. Yeah, and also, I suppose it's worth noting, like, this is also a musical biopic, so, like, even without everything else going against it, I mean, how often is a musical biopic good? Let's be real here, folks.
It's not classified as a musical biopic, though.
Okay, well, it's a biopic about a guy who does music.
Well, I think that's part of the problem, isn't it? It's not classified as a musical. Because there's not that much music in it.
They play the West Side Story soundtrack.
Yeah, I noticed that. They did it twice.
Yeah, I actually, can I be honest, I didn't know, like, I think I'd heard of Leonard Bernstein, but I knew nothing about him before I watched this movie.
And you still don't know anything about him.
I know that he was gay, and his wife had cancer. That's the two things that matter. I can't believe his wife didn't get AIDS. Like, isn't that crazy? Like, isn't that just like, wow, I can't believe she managed to dodge that bullet.
Maybe that's what she died of, and it's just a cover-up. No,
that's it, yeah.
She died
probably.
in 78, you know.
Oh, okay, that's it. So that's she like just got out in the nick of time.
Yeah. I'm surprised Bernstein didn't die of AIDS. So
I know, that's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, maybe he would have. Maybe because I think he died of a drug overdose or something. I don't know, but yeah,
okay.
So
when did he die?
My thoughts on this movie, it's a vanity project. Like it's not without its merits. It's again, I think it looks nice. I think the performances are really good. But God, like at points, man, he just wants to suck himself off so bad, doesn't he, Bradley Cooper?
Yeah. And I don't really want to talk about this movie. You know, like when you're like watching a movie and just want to talk about like the idea of the movie rather than like what actually happens.
And I was just so surprised, like how just it's not really about Leonard Bernstein's career. You know, you don't really get to know him that well. You know,
it's just a bunch of people hanging out.
There's so many fucking scenes of like parties and like arguments. That's it. It's just party and then
people talking in a very normal way.
Yeah, just people talking in a room over and over again. And again, there's then a couple of scenes of him composing. It's just like, Jesus fucking Christ, man. Like, do you want to show me like, you know, some actual stuff that went down? You know, but no, it's I guess because the arguments that Bradley Cooper can have as Leonard Bernstein and the parties that he can go to, you know, and it's
and
like
the way he can talk in a funny way.
He can talk in a funny way, which, by the way, Bernstein didn't sound like that.
I like to talk like that. I actually can't do his voice.
Yeah. So again, it's just like it's okay, but then just the reason why it was created and the decisions that were made just make me dislike this movie. So yeah, I do dislike it. But I don't like hate it so much because again, it's not like unwatchable. But what? Do you have any Olympics on Olympics?
No. Do you?
But I do. The CGI at the start was so bad. I don't know why they did it because you know they don't need to do it. It's just like a theatre. I don't know why they needed to CGI a theatre in. But yeah, maybe it was a last minute thing that Bradley Cooper thought of, and like they couldn't film it. I don't know, but it seems stupid. But yeah, what happens with the plot, Michael?
Well, yeah. So I this is my actual opinion, by the way. I just thought I'd say that previous opinion so that YMS would think I'm cool. A towering and fearless love story chronicling the relationship between Leonard Bernstein and Felicia Montealegre. A love letter. That's what I said. A love letter to life and art. Maestro, at its core, is an emotionally epic portrayal of family and love. That's what I think about it.
Now, you may have been like, wait, why did you get a review of the movie written by Bradley Cooper? I thought, you know, it's from that illegal website that I use. No, sorry, the legal website I use.
Yeah.
I just found that very funny.
That's really funny.
Yeah, and at the start, you know, you have this question which is posed, which is not a question, a quote from Bernstein, which is
it's called an epitaph, by the way.
Okay, that's good. A work of art provokes questions. You know, that's what it says essentially, and of course, you know, this is a work of art. And what are the questions that are provoked by him? Well, he can't conduct his own life despite being a conductor, right? You know, he is also a conductor and a composer, just like he is gay and straight. You know?
Yeah. So this movie, just because I felt like maybe we're on the same page here, it has a load of like kind of grand themes and like connections and stuff like that that it hints at. I would personally say I don't think it substantially elaborates on any of the ideas it really introduces.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what questions is it evoking. How can someone like this exist? Who was Leonard Bernstein? Which is. Yeah, like obviously he was an artist who is disturbed, like a lot of these great artists. You know, there wasn't anything crazy about his life. You know, he he fought with his wife. He cheated on her. He did cocaine. Wow, that's crazy. That never happens.
10% of people are gay.
Yeah.
And he was in musical theatre, so that's more like 90%.
Yeah, and again, this is like different to other biopics because I guess the relationship he has with his wife is central to it. Kind of like Napoleon, honestly. But
another great movie.
It's a way of getting away with biopics, because like if you do a biopic, a person's life doesn't have a perfect beginning, middle, and end. But what if the wife is now central to it, so that allows you to move throughout the years and it not be for it to work well, and for not to be like, oh, it's just another biopic. No, this is a biopic which puts love and family at the center of it, and maybe that's because his kids were also involved in this biopic. So his kids were like, I want to focus on, his love for his wife. So of course,
it's always good when you get the family involved in these biopics.
Yeah. But yeah, there's just not enough of his achievements. They talk a bit about it in an interview, but this movie really isn't interested in going into his life.
Yeah. It doesn't get into there's no project he's working on.
Yeah.
Which I think would be a good move to do.
He completes Mass at one point, doesn't he? Or whatever it's called.
Oh, yeah.
But I didn't even know he was writing it.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, he just walks out and he's got some toilet paper and he's like, it's just a really long. It's like a receipt. It's like one of those the terms and conditions in a Bugs Bunny cartoon. He's like, I completed Mass. And it's like, oh, well done. I'm glad you did that, Mr. Bernstein.
Yeah, I didn't even know you were writing it. Great. So, well done.
And it's also shut up and go write West Side Story. That's the only thing I know.
Yeah, West Side Story. That you'd think you'd maybe have a scene about that, but nope. But yeah, so let's get on to the production because of course Bradley Cooper was central to this, wasn't he?
Plans for a Leonard Bernstein biopic began in 2008, but languished in development hell for a decade. In 2017, Spielberg decided not to direct the film. Cooper said he wanted to throw his hat in the ring as a director. I'm just laughing at what I did there with the surnames.
Yeah, so did you not mean to do that or something? I don't understand.
No, I did, but I just sometimes I do something intentionally and then I realize later on I have a delayed reaction about how funny the thing I'm doing intentionally
it was very funny.
Because it's Bernstein and Spielberg and they're both really Jewish ends of surnames.
Okay.
And I combine them together.
Yeah, so Bradley Cooper, the non-Jewish Bradley Cooper, he really
Cooper Platz.
He really thought this would be his magnum opus, This was the movie they'll remember me for. I'm a great artist, just like Leonard Bernstein, and yeah, just like Bernstein, he was a narcissist,
Like Bernstein, he was gay.
I was just about to bring that up. So I have heard from a reliable source that apparently it's a sort of well known in Hollywood that Bradley Cooper is in fact gay.
I say Bradley Cooper likes it in the pooper.
Bradley Cooper is gay, and it's kind of a secret which is sort of well kept, but given this movie, it's not crazy, here's another great artist just like me who was secretly gay,
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, and do you know who else apparently is gay? An actor.
A gay and an actor, Kevin Spacey.
No, someone who isn't outed as gay. I'll just tell you.
Tom Cruise.
No, no. And this would sort of make sense as well. Vin Diesel.
Oh, yeah.
Vin Diesel. There you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they said, a couple of guys, because it has to get around, but, you have to keep it hush-hush at the same time. But yeah.
I would like to see Vin Diesel playing Leonard Bernstein.
Yes. So let's get into the movie now.
Yeah, so in 1943, 25-year-old assistant conductor Leonard Bernstein makes his conducting debut. His exceptional performance catapults him to fame. Oh boy, I can't wait to see all the conducting he's going to do with his fame. So yeah, I mean, that was my criticism right there. It's kind of it starts off being about, look, it's about this guy and his dream and this lucky break he gets, and it's kind of I don't know, it doesn't really make me feel anything about his success as a composer, really.
Yeah, I don't know why it would make him famous. The context isn't explained. He just shows up and is good. And it's kind of the similar. We talked about this with Tar. Last year. How good do you actually have to be as a conductor?
That's a good point. Yeah,
because you're just it's like being a manager of a football team. You're not actually doing anything. You have to prepare the orchestra. Once you're actually out there,
just waving your wand.
Yeah, so I don't know how he gets credit for it. How did you get credit for coming in last minute and just waving your stick about? The sheets of music are there.
Yeah, the fact that he comes in last minute basically makes a mockery of the whole thing, really.
Yeah.
It's because to be fair, you say it's like being a football manager, but if I came in, and I think I'm a really good example of this, if I came in to manage a football team at the last minute, I probably wouldn't do that well. So clearly there's some skill to being a football manager.
There would be a plan beforehand that the players would adhere to.
Okay, actually, in that case, I'll do it.
Yeah, so you'd have to make subs and tactical changes. Yeah. So actually, being a football manager is more complicated. You may have to make in-game changes and who you're going to bring off the bench, and of course you're competing against someone else. But essentially, if you just showed up on the touchline, well, the players already should have a plan. But I'm getting too into this metaphor.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So yeah.
But the point is, I'm trying to make is it should not. I don't know how you get stardom for just like conducting. When you have just come in at the last minute, because again, everyone already knows what they have to do.
Yes. No, yeah, I'm with you, yeah, and I agree with you. It's being a conductor.
If the movie explained it, it would be good, but the movie does not explain it because we have to get another party scene,
Yeah. So despite being in a relationship with Robert Oppenheimer, not really, David Oppenheim, he falls for aspiring actress Felicia Montealegre. By the 1950s, the Bernsteins live an affluent life in the public eye, with Leonard having composed several successful operas and Broadway musicals. Yes, they really breezed through all of that, didn't they?
Yeah, we don't get to see any of that. It's just parties, or family get-togethers.
Yeah, just having conversations.
Those are the scenes. Again, like often these scenes as well, they're quite confusing, and the dialogue as well. It's not pointed. Really, it seems kind of weird, the dialogue, and that was a choice that Bradley Cooper made, because it's like, we're not going to make it normal dialogue. This dialogue's going to be a bit, bit off the beaten. Well,
Did I ever tell you I fucked both your parents?
Yeah, well, that's not what I'm talking about. Really.
To be fair, like I can imagine an eccentric gay guy would say that.
Yeah.
A lot of the dialogue, it's very. I don't want to use this phrase, but it insists upon itself.
It does, and you've said that now. But yeah, it's purposely quirky to make you think it's better than it is. And sorry, this is jumping ahead, but the one where they're like having the argument and she's like saying like, I can't even remember what she said because it sounded like, as they say in the business, word salad, but she's like, you're afraid of success and you can't, and she like just like goes on a full psychoanalysis session. It's like, people don't talk like that. Yeah, I know, it's like a Anatomy of a Fool.
Yeah, but the weird thing is, Anatomy of a Fool, and this might shock you to hear, Luke, Anatomy of a Fool was better.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah. Also that sailor scene, remember when they're having a conversation and it morphs into the play?
Because they're like, oh, should we go see? And like that's another thing in this movie. It's like there's some like supposed to be maybe a hint of a conflict between like serious classical music and Broadway, and like obviously that's more crowd pleasing, but they don't really do anything with it.
No, they don't really.
Because they're like, should we go see this unserious music? And then they like just get involved in a Broadway thing. But it's like, why?
Well, that Broadway play, how they're having a conversation and they both get involved in the play. Again, it's a different choice. It's artistic. You don't really see that in movies, do you? Stuff like that.
No,
it's not in the real world. Yeah, even though it's just bullshit. I want you to think it's clever.
So I'm willing to proceed. Just so you know, I've been working on like a new nickname for you that I thought I'd introduce just to kind of let you know.
I really hope you just start reading reading it without knowing what's coming next. But go on.
I'm sorry, but so Jewface, Cooper's use of a large prosthetic nose to portray Bernstein, who was Jewish, was criticised by some as an example of a Jewface. Hollywood Report critic Daniel Feinberg criticised the casting of Cooper, along with the British Gentile Mulligan as Costa Rican Chilean converted Jew, as a lot of ethnic cosplay for one movie. Really normal and sane English Jewish actress Tracy Ann Oberman wrote that if Cooper can't play the role through the power of acting alone, then don't cast him. Get a Jewish actor. So I guess you're right. He should have really committed to the method of nose growing.
Yeah. So I think this is fine.
Yeah, I'm fine with this
because
too.
The Jews being disrespected is okay with it now. I mean, Bradley Cooper is famous, so he can do what he likes.
Yeah. Also, like if you're famous, at a certain point when you're famous, you're basically Jewish anyway.
Okay, calm down. But yeah, I think again, Bradley Cooper is famous, so you put a prosthetic nose on him, it makes him look slightly different to how he normally looks. And honestly, in most scenes, you can't even tell. It's a prosthetic nose. There are some shots where you can definitely tell, but those shots aren't that common in the movie.
Yeah.
So
I would have liked him to play Mary Lamb, to be honest.
Okay.
No, I will say this actually. On this note, I actually think that Cooper, in my humble submission, I think he reasonably did, as someone who has no idea who Leonard Bernstein is. I think he embodied the role of someone. Like I didn't feel like I personally. Actually didn't feel like I was just watching Bradley Cooper, even though, like, obviously this was Bradley Cooper desperately wanting to be an actor.
There is one moment, but yeah, go on.
All right. So, as the years pass, Leonard's dalliances, as well as his alcohol abuse, take a deep toll on the marriage. These issues are compounded when Jamie hears whispers of her father's infidelity. Leonard attempts to deny the rumours as fueled by jealousies. Yes, so the issues are compounded by him getting pounded.
Yes. So again,
by
it's
men.
it's the old cliche from these biopics. This genius, but he's a tough guy to marry. He does drugs or alcohol and cheats on his spouse. Like so many biopics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yeah, I do like the scene, of course, with his kid Jamie when she is relieved that he's not actually cheating and it's just made up, and yeah, he's kind of speechless because he's kind of ashamed that she's relieved.
Yeah, like that is a bit awkward.
Yeah, I like that scene. That's actually a good scene. And yeah, it involves Bradley Cooper not talking.
Yes.
But yeah, again, there's just so many arguments, and again, halfway through the movie, it switches to color. I don't know why it does that. It switches to color, I guess, when things when the kids start growing up, and I'm thinking the kids being involved, maybe they start to remember stuff. So all that black and white stuff, that was when things were going well. That's in the past. We can remember that fondly, but we can't obviously remember things fondly that we experienced. So
my theory was literally just that it changes to color when media in general starts to be in color. So and that could be wrong, but yeah, because it's from like the 50s, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, so in the 50s things were generally like in black and white, and then like it transitions to 60s and 70s and it's in color.
That's a nice theory, but what's the point in that?
I know, yeah, I agree, because like any movie could do that. Again, well, the point is, I mean, also we haven't mentioned this. The whole thing's in like, well, not the whole thing, I think, like, but certainly a lot of it's in a 4:3 aspect ratio.
Yeah, because
and like
it's Bradley Cooper. Yeah,
exactly. It's like you mess around with things, and that means you're being artistic.
Yes, exactly. Anyway, what's next?
Yeah, so one Thanksgiving, Leonard returns home from a bender and has an argument with Felicia, where he says bye, Felicia. No, where she insists that he has hate in his heart and will die a lonely old queen. They remain married through Leonard's composition of Mass in 1971. Yeah, I'm glad you pointed out that line, he has hate in his heart, because like, as a bit later on, she's like, you no longer. I don't know if you're going to mention this already. Oh wait, you did write this. Okay, sorry, I'm jumping ahead.
Yeah.
It's fine. So I'll just pretend I didn't say that. Don't worry, Luke.
But yeah, so again, it's just so many arguments. So much talking in rooms. So much. Again, the whole scene is one shot again because that makes it more artistic. And yeah, then there's at one point she jumps into the pool because she's drowning, isn't she?
Yeah, she's a crazy woman.
Yeah, well, yeah. I don't know why she'd jump in the pool once he's finished creating mass, because maybe that means he's going on another bender because he's finished doing all his work, so he's gonna start doing crazy shit again, and he's not locked up in his room, and I'm not sure, but yeah, like again, because it's artistic, she just literally jumps in the pool and drowns.
And dies.
Yeah.
So gets cancer.
Yeah. Oh, we have the return of Mahler, don't we?
Yeah, so in 1973, Leonard conducts Mahler's Resurrection Symphony in a legendary performance in England.
Okay, this is the scene. This is the fucking scene. He said before, how do I know? Well, we don't know it's Bradley Cooper, right? We think of, he's doing a character. We can separate Bradley Cooper from Leonard Bernstein. You can't in this scene because it's just Bradley Cooper doing he's masturbating, basically. And
he's flailing a lot.
This scene is why he did this movie. He spent 6 years learning conducting, apparently. And all for this scene, so it could be the Oscar bait scene, and yeah, it goes on for 6 minutes. It's unbelievable, like, to do this. Like, he's masturbate. He's jerking himself off while he's doing this.
Mass, because I finally did my masturbation.
Yeah, and again, he's so energetic. And I remember a side-by-side comparison of Bradley Cooper in this movie and the real Leonard Bernstein conducting, and Bradley Cooper is just going like he's waving his arms about. He's crazy, and it's just like, wow. Look at him go. But in reality, Bernstein conducted completely differently. Like you'd expect. He wasn't just some crazed lunatic. He was trying to get an Oscar. He was trying to get everyone to be like, look at me, look at what I'm doing. So yeah, this is the worst bit of the movie. And I couldn't really believe it while watching it. It's like, yeah, he just sucks himself off completely. And there's no context as to why this is so important, why this is a legendary performance either. There's just no context is given either. Go on.
Yes. So, I mean, I'll just say I agree. I will say at least the music's at least like the classical music is good. I was thinking, I was like, at least we're listening to some like decent music.
Yeah.
Amidst the uproarious reception, Felicia reconciles with Leonard, insisting there's no hate in his heart. Yeah. So this is like the thing, because it's like one of those moments where it's like I'm confronted with the fact the movie, I guess, thinks it has a point. And I'm not sure what that point is.
Well, yes, so I guess because of his conducting, he doesn't have hate in his heart, but he's always been a good conductor.
Yeah, none of it makes sense.
I don't. Why would this resolve their relationship? Like, this guy has always been one of the best conductors alive. He delivers a great performance, and that convinces her. Like she didn't know he was a good conductor beforehand. I don't get that. It's fucking stupid. Anyway, let's go.
So Felicia is diagnosed with breast cancer. Her condition deteriorates, and she dies in London's arms in 1978. It's kind of sad when she dies.
Yeah, this goes on for like 15 to 20 minutes.
Yeah, it's weird because the movie just like completely like focuses on this singularly, and then it's like over. There's no like yeah.
This is the part of the movie where she dies, and it's sad. But what else can you say?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you're right. What else can we say?
Carey Mulligan does a good job, I will say. Although I'm not sure about her age. Like she's meant to be like 60 at the end.
Yeah,
she doesn't look 60.
Yeah, she was in Promising Young Woman like yesterday.
Yeah.
Anyway, Leonard is shown in 1987 teaching conducting and partying as well as having affairs. Returning to the interview, Leonard admits that he misses Felicia before his mind flashes back to an image of her in their youth walking in their yard. Great. Artsy flashbacks.
Yeah,
Silent.
I guess the ending message is, despite his later years, that's where he really wanted to be. Because just he lived for I think like 12 years after his wife died, and I imagine he went on a lot of these benders, and that's what he was known for in the 80s. But despite all that, no, it's his wife. That's where he really wanted to be. Not partying, which is a kind of a nice ending, and it's predictable again. And I'm not sure how true it is, but it gives a nice ending for Leonard Bernstein.
Yes. So this movie, it is. I mean, we kind of already said it, right? It's very over the top, very kind of cynical. But like I say, I don't hate this movie. I think like even though it's there for bad reasons, I can still recognize on an objective level that there is artistic stuff going on. Like it is well shot.
Well, what are you gonna give it?
I'm actually gonna give it a high 5, so that's technically a better than average rating. But if I was rating it on how much of a soul it had, it would be much lower.
Yeah, so I'm gonna give it a 4.5 because again, I don't hate it. I don't hate it. It's not unwatchable, but I hate. Well, I would say I dislike it. That's a fair. That's a fair take. And the reason why I dislike it is because the movie's it's annoying, but it's not that bad. But again, you peel behind the curtain. Why was this movie created? It's because Bradley Cooper was like, well, I'm like Leonard Bernstein. Leonard Bernstein was all these things. He was a conductor, he was a composer, he was everything to music. And I'm like that when it comes to producing movies. I am an actor, but I'm a producer, I'm a writer, I'm a director as well. I can do everything just like Leonard Bernstein. Look at how similar he is to me, and I'm playing him in the movie. Don't you get it, guys? Don't you get how incredible I am? And this guy as well. He was gay and he was straight. And I am Bradley Cooper. I am gay and straight, which is a kind of a well-known thing in Hollywood. So look at how similar I am to Bernstein. That's the whole point of this movie. And of course, this guy is known as one of the great composers, and Bradley Cooper's basically, without actually saying it, putting him on the same pedestal as Leonard Bernstein, and using this movie to do so, and making that direct comparison. And that's why he was so interested in doing this movie, and not just starring in it. So that cynical aspect is what I think it has to be considered while watching this movie. You can't ignore it because he's in the movie every fucking second. So I'm gonna therefore knock it down. It probably would be around where you put it, but down to a 4.5, and maybe even a 4 would be fair. But I'll just stick with 4.5. But what are we doing next, Michael?
So next we're doing the movie Past Lives. So Luke, why don't you tell us a thing or two about the movie Past Lives?
Yes, our final movie today, Past Lives. So Past Lives is a 2023 romantic drama film written and directed by Celine Song in her feature directorial debut. It stars Greta Lee, Teo Yu, and John Magaro. So there you go, pronounced all that correctly. It was released on June the 2nd, 2023 in the United States. And Michael, can you tell me what the budget was for this movie?
8 million.
It was 12 million. And that's dollars, not Korean won. So what about the box office for Past Lives?
18 million.
No, 42.5.
Oh wow, okay, well done.
Yeah, the Korean box office is a big deal. You can't ignore.
I didn't really think about that.
You can't ignore that. So, Michael, tell me, did you like Past Lives?
Yes, I did like this movie. I thought this movie was very good. I liked how kind of realistic it was. It didn't feel like cheesy. It's kind of like the opposite to Holdover, and it's like very, I think, grounded. I thought there was some really interesting stuff going on with the whole idea of like past lives and Im Yun. And, unlike with Maestro, where I think like ideas are introduced just to be introduced, I feel like you could kind of see characters engaging with this concept and that like factoring into their interpersonal relationships. I really enjoyed this movie. Yeah,
there's some real, I think, thought with this movie, and I think that's good. It's not just what if my life was different. No, there is some real thought here, and I think it's very well done, and I liked it a lot. And I think actually at the start it's a bit slow. But the third act, of course, when the Korean guy comes to New York, that's when it gets really good, because you built it up a lot, and then when he comes to New York, that's when it gets good, and you can really enjoy what this movie has to say. Yeah. So let's get into it. How many lit picks do you have?
I've got none.
Wow, what a surprise! So I have a nitpick and a lit pick. So the actors don't really. Well, yeah, it's hard to age the actors, but yeah, they don't really look that different. From when they're 24 to 36, the woman has a different hairstyle.
I see. So you're saying all Koreans look the same, is what I'm hearing here.
Yes.
Saying they just look like the same person.
Yes. Yeah. It'd be funny if they were different actors.
Yeah, they were different actors.
Yeah. It's like, all of them look the same. Yeah, no, they are actually the same actor. Yeah. So the lit pick, what is hello in Korean? It's annyeong.
Oh, yeah.
And they say
annyeong.
that. And I know that because of Arrested Development, of course. Yeah. Annyeong.
There's a kid called Anyang.
Yeah, which is hello in Korean, but they call him that because that's what he says to them.
Yes.
Okay, so let us get into the plot.
Yeah, so Past Lives follows two childhood friends over the course of 24 years while they contemplate the nature of their relationship as they grow apart, living different lives. They are reunited in New York for one fateful week as they confront notions of destiny, love, and the choices that make a life. The plot is semi-autobiographical and inspired by real events from Celine Song's life. I think that's a very good summary. I assume the summary didn't come from a very legal website.
No, what?
Well, just because usually those summaries are insane, whereas this summary I think is actually a very good summary. So I'm assuming that therefore this isn't where you typically get your summaries from.
I think it was half and half actually.
Okay, that's fun.
So yeah, but yeah, I think you it has a message. You look at your life and you wonder what if, and that I guess you could say, well, that is life, especially from this girl's perspective who immigrated from South Korea. If you immigrated to a place, you will, as a kid, you often wonder what if you stayed in, South Korea. But it does go deeper, I think, in a really profound way at the end of the movie. And
yes,
I like that. I really think that the final 20-30 minutes are just really good, and I think the concept of the 12-year intervals, it also makes it interesting, and you do have to get through a lot of the build up before the final act, but it is, when it gets there, it's quite good.
Yeah, I think the final act pays off the build up.
That's a good way. That's a good way to frame it. So let's get into the script now.
So in 2000 Seoul, South Korea, Na Young and Hae Sung are 12-year-old classmates who develop feelings for one another and go on a playdate. Na Young's family then immigrates to Toronto, and the two lose contact. So yeah, I mean this is basic. I have neither anything especially good nor especially bad to say about this. I think it's just like we kind of said, setting stuff up.
Well, yeah, but would you have such a bond if you were 12?
No, I was thinking about that actually.
Yeah, I remember when I was 12, I was. I was a completely different person to when I was, 24. And so, it seems weird to be like, oh yeah, this kid I used to hang out with,
Yeah.
Even if I was really close, I'd still be pining after them after 12 years.
Yeah. This is really funny because there was someone I was thinking about recently, not mentioning any names, who I was once in a relationship with, and I just thought to myself very casually recently, I wonder what what's going on with them right now. I wonder what they're up to. Very just casual, and it didn't even occur to me for a moment to be like, to imagine some scenario be like we're reunited and it's this all these intense feelings and blah blah blah. And that's not even when I was 12.
Yeah, exactly. So, it was, I assume, earlier on.
Yeah, like when I was like an adult.
Yeah, and also you were in an actual relationship with them rather than just like friends, which I think it's different. So yeah,
Koreans be catching feelings.
What happens 12 years later?
So 12 years later, in 2012. Nora discovers that Hae Sung was looking for Na Young. They reconnect through video calls, but are unable to visit each other. Eventually, Nora tells Hae Sung they should stop talking for a while as she wants to focus on her writing and life in New York. I will say, one thing I like about this, just because you don't see it that often, is people talking and forming a relationship through video calls, which I feel like that's people have video calls a lot often nowadays. People can't be able to go on dates anymore. But yeah, I like how this film is quite realistic, I guess, about a long distance relationship, because obviously you'd be in a long distance relationship and then you just eventually cool off because you'd be like, there's no chance. Yeah, there's no hope for us.
Yeah, no, I think it's done well. The technology is, how it's used is good. But yeah, I think for this part of the movie, I didn't really find it interesting. The only real thing that interests me was it's semi-autobiographical. So, So okay, she experienced something like this, so that makes it kind of interesting, because on its own, it's not that dramatic.
Yeah. So, at a writer's retreat, Nora meets Arthur Zataransky, and they fall in love, at one point discussing the Buddhist-derived concept of inyon, how a relationship between two souls in the present life is influenced by their relationships in thousands of past lives, which is the name of the film.
Yes, it is the theme of the movie.
Yes.
And I suppose, the broader implication is Hae-sung and Nora were married in a past life. But yeah, I do like how, the movie is about how you can basically touch and feel that past life and or alternate life. It's right there, but it's obviously not your current life. And yeah, when they do meet up in New York, there are plenty of these shots with them being surrounded by couples. I don't know if you picked up on that when they're just walking through New York.
You know what? I don't think I did particularly.
Yeah, just couples are all around them, but they're obviously not a couple, which is interesting. But yeah.
Yeah, I wrote down a word about this in-yom thing. I wrote down the word fatalistic because I feel like it's kind of like it's this because there's kind of like an aura of like fatalism hanging over the movie. Like it's everyone's like, oh, it just wasn't to be.
Yeah.
Like so, and I like how that kind of ties into it. 12 more years pass with Arthur and Nora married and living in New York. Hae-sung, no longer with his girlfriend, goes to meet Nora there. Yeah, this is where it really kicks off. So, in a way, like, I guess because it's kind of like you've got like 3 moments, like, when there's, and it like goes forward. I was like thinking, oh, you'd think like in a way it would be evenly spaced, which wouldn't have been a good thing because obviously I like this bit best. But yeah, I was like, oh, it's kind of weird that like there's actually quite a lot of the movie left. But still, it's very good. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I just want to say a few things about Hae-sung.
Yes.
He's the South Korean Chad, isn't he?
He's pretty hot.
Or a Scad, as he's now. Like
Yes.
I think he's quite tall for a Korean.
Yeah.
And he is built. Like he goes to the gym, and when he's a teenager, it's funny. Like they try to hide his physique by putting him in baggy clothes, but you can tell he's built. Like he's I don't know how realistic that is. Honestly, I've seen Korean men, and not to say they're all betas. I wouldn't be that racist or but I haven't really seen a lot of Korean men like built like he is.
Yeah, there's like a line about he's really masculine in a South Korean way, or like in a Korean way, and it's like, okay, I see what you're qualifying it. That's good.
Yeah, in a South Korean, but no, he just is like
he's hot.
He has like 0% body fat. You compare him to the friends that he hangs around with. He's just this Chad, and he's just, I guess I don't know how realistic it is. Probably not really realistic, but they picked an actor who was good looking enough for this to be a worry for the for her husband. He's also quite nervous, which again I don't think it suits him with his body.
Yeah, but sometimes you got to bear in mind there's like people who are really autistic, so they go to the gym to like cope, like everyone on 4chan.
Okay, right, fine. But yeah, I just want to talk about how weird South Korean culture is, because obviously that is a point in the movie, or the differences between American culture and South Korea. And she asks him, why don't you marry your girlfriend if you love her? And he says, I don't have money, or I'm too ordinary, and it's just insane, isn't it? Just the whole culture, like they're like aliens, honestly. And I guess that's the point in the movie. And also the implication that he is young enough at 36 not to be worried about marriage.
That's it. Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah.
But Nora getting married at 29 is weird. Like that's young.
Yeah, it's insane, and like you understand why they've like got a massively declining birth rate.
Yeah,
you're like, oh, I see, I understand it.
Yeah, and the movie, and I'm not sure the movie is making that point specifically.
No, yeah, exactly.
But you can see that, so I like that. That's a good point. And again, the cost of living and everything over there is ridiculous. It's such a fucked country, honestly. But yeah, I guess he is very Korean, as Nora describes him.
Yes.
To contrast him with again her boyfriend, and you can tell she acts different around both of them as well. Which you kind of have to do. So all these little details are quite nice, and are not just said, but can be implied, which I enjoy. But yeah, what happens next?
So Arthur wonders if he is a roadblock in their own imperfect love story, suggesting to Nora that if another man with a similar appeal had met her at the time, Nora would have married him. Yeah, so I like this. I also like the fact that like he specifically contrasts the kind of the realism of their love with like the idea of like a fantasy love. He's like, this is not like a fantastical love. Which I kind of I like that.
And I just want to say on this guy before we get into that,
he's not a Chad.
He's not a Chad, but I'm surprised you didn't say the C word, honestly. Which you like to say often. I put he's worried.
Oh, cuck. Yes, sorry, he is a cuck. Yes.
Well, I said he is worried that he's going to get cooked.
Yes.
I don't know if he is. He's worried it's going to happen, and that's the thing. I don't know if I'd be so insecure because this guy hasn't met her in 24 years, and they were kids when they last knew each other. I don't know if I don't know if I'd be that insecure about it.
I wouldn't be insecure until I met him. I'd be like, oh wow, this guy's built.
Yeah. Yeah. But again, maybe, because he is quite small and short, maybe that would affect him.
Yeah. Yeah, they did. Yeah, exactly. They went for the least alpha white guy.
Yeah. But maybe he's thinking like this because he's a playwright, so he thinks creatively. And I do like the line, like, you dream in a language I can't understand.
Yes, I like that too.
That's a great line. And you know, like I don't know this side of you. I don't know the whole of you. There's the side of you that I just don't know. And obviously, this guy, you know, Ne Sung, is a physical manifestation of that side. You know, if there were to be an opposite, you know, person to me who you would find attractive, you know, it would be this guy. He's all the things I can't be to you. Which I like that, and I like that he espouses that, and yeah, it makes sense. But it's not too deliberately, and the line, of course, is really good about, you know, dreaming in language.
Dreaming.
Yes.
Yeah, and also, I mean, it's related to the idea of like past lives, because it's like her past life in Korea.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
and like I think she kind of mentions, and then like when she's speaking to him later on, I suppose we'll get into whatever. Actually, I'll wait until we get to that. So the following night, the three go out to dinner. Initially, Nora translates each dialogue, but eventually speaks with Haesung in Korean. He wonders what they were to each other in their past lives, and what would have happened if she had never left South Korea. Actually, so I've mentioned a thing. Basically, yeah, she's like, oh, the girl who you knew in like Korea, she's not here anymore. So again, like that just kind of like drives home the idea of it being like a past life.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, this conversation is the whole crux of the movie. You know, maybe they were married in the past, you know, and you know, in their past life, of course, in this life they were together, and yeah, you can use, I think, past life as a placeholder for alternate lives as well. You know, but again, the dialogue in this scene is very pointed, and I do wonder if it's better if it was just like left. You know, if it was left unsaid, you know, because they already bring up past lives, and the movie's called Past Lives, so you don't really need them to bring up past lives. I don't know if Koreans always do this, you know.
Yeah, that's one thing I always think about, where I'm like, I don't know if the dialogue's like unnatural, or if like it is just a case of different languages have different like cadences in terms of how they talk. I will say
it wouldn't be cadence, would it?
Oh, yeah, I guess like way of talking in terms of how like subtle they are. I will say they're like placing a lot of confidence, or like I guess they're okay with the idea the guy could be listening to them, but like this guy speaks some conversational Korean. I assume if he speaks some conversational Korean, obviously most people can like hear a language better than they can speak it. So he's probably hearing like the odd word they're saying.
Yeah, maybe.
But
yeah, but he's been cooked. So.
Yeah, he's sat on the cook chair. So. When Haesung calls for an Uber, Nora waits with him, and the two exchange long, meaningful looks at each other. Haesung wonders whether they were experiencing a past life, and asks Nora what their relationship will be in their next life. She says she does not know. Haesung says, "I'll see you then." He leaves, and she walks away, crying in Arthur's arms. Yeah, so now he's getting emotionally cucked.
Yeah, but she knows if things went a different way, they'd easily be together and be married. So again, it's hard to walk away from that person and that life, you know, and you know, she did leave that life, and it was right there, and it's gone, and it must be painful, I think, you know, to see that other life, because you know it's right in front of you, but it's this guy, but not go down that path, despite the fact that you almost had this life, and again, you have the whole theme of, you know, the past life of like, oh, maybe this is a past life, and together they'll be there, they'll be together in the next life, you know. I like that too, because like I kind of mentioned earlier, like the whole fatalism thing of, you know, like, oh, your past lives kind of determine a lot of what's happening, and it's kind of like the way he says, well, what if this is a past life? It's almost like thinking about the fact that there's still the future, and it kind of like adds in a sense of what's the word, I guess free will, because it's like, oh, you know, this is our life, but maybe our life will influence the future, so it's not just that we're determined by our past, but we have the power to, you know, like establish our future. That's kind of like what I thought was kind of, you know, at least works with what he's saying. I don't know if it's exactly what was intended, but I was like, yeah, that's a connection. Yes. Let's conclude now. I'll just go first, but yeah, I just think, it's a really interesting movie. It has, you know, the whole concept of, oh, what if I chose this path? You know, it does it in a really smart and, again, profound way, in a deep way, and using this concept of a past life which exists in Korea. So you can, you know, use that in this movie. And yeah, it's great for a directional debut. So yeah, I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10, which may be a bit low, I don't know, but it's, you know, it's, I wouldn't say maybe it's great, it's just really good, and it does what it sets out to do very well. But
yeah, so I'll also say movie's really good thematically, also like emotionally. Like at the end, I kind of like, it was one of those movies, it wasn't like super extreme, but I just had to like sit with like a sense of, oh man, that was some real like powerful stuff, and you know, that's what you want in a movie. And yeah, I was almost thinking, when I really think about it, like maybe I went too low, but for me it's also a low 8, so we basically rated the exact same you know, score, and we're both thinking maybe it was a bit low, but yeah, I think for me, kind of like you said, like the beginning isn't that entertaining, while obviously the beginning is kind of justified by the end. At the end of the day, you still have to watch the beginning. which just is maybe a bit slow.
So
yeah.
what did you give it, sorry?
Low 8.
Okay, yeah, an 8, yeah. So, and that is it then. Yeah, we review the best adapted screenplays as well, yes. So join us for that.
I can tell everyone what they're even called. You ready for this?
Okay.
They are American Fiction, Poor Things, The Zone of Interest, Killers of the Flower Moon.
Yeah, and Oppenheimer was the other one that we've already reviewed. So yeah, join us for that next time. Goodbye.
Guten Tag.